Okay. Do I need to be at your computer to do that?
I'll just turn it.
Okay.
The task will hear you from there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. (6:31 p.m.) We're going to call the Urbandale Community School District meeting to order. And we are meeting electronically due to heightened public health risks. And we have all board members present. Is that true, Catherine? And I'll turn it over to President Hauser.
Okay. You want to have the roll call?
Anderson.
Here.
That was actually Anderson. I'm sorry. Stacy Anderson.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Sarah Geiser. Hauser.
He's muted right now.
Oh.
Great.
Brianna.
I'm here. Here.
Okay.
Hauser, yes. Right.
Here. Sarah.
Schmitz.
Okay.
Schmitz is not here at this point, right, Catherine?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Would you state your name when you make the first and second, please?
Yep. Smith moved.
Brown second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Night.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so on the approvals, we will do a roll call vote, but on this item, we're not going to. Okay. I'm assuming, was there any communication from the public, Mary Beth?
No, there was not.
Okay, so that item is complete. So we will move on to the action items. For A, we are going to approve the engagement agreement for the general obligation bonds with Allers. Do I have a motion?
Smith moved to approve the engagement agreement with Allers.
Stacy Anderson second.
Okay, you want to do a roll call, Mary Beth?
I think what I'll do is I'll say all in favor, say aye, and then opposed, same sign.
Okay.
That'll be easier. So
Okay.
Go ahead. All in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Okay. So we will move on to item B. This is a resolution to approve the preliminary official statement for the electronic bidding for our general obligation bonds for 2020B.
Smith moved to approve the resolution approving the preliminary official statement approving electronic bidding.
Sarah Geiser second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, unanimous, thanks. Then we'll go to item C, where we will be approving the resolution to advertise for the bids for the obligation series 2020A.
Smith moves to approve the resolution directing the advertisement of bids.
Brown second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thanks. So now we will move on to item B. And there are three actions that we can discuss. So let's, it's okay, isn't it, to just do 1, 2, and 3?
Yep, and just a reminder, there's a, underneath the heading of that COVID plan, it gives you an idea. I don't know if I take any questions on any of those topics.
Do we have
This
any?
is Steve, is there any further update to the plan that you posted?
So can you say that one more time?
Which,
The question was, are there any further updates
So let
since?
me just check. And if you're on the call, can you press 1 on your phone, please? Oh, here we go. And your mic is on public now.
Julie, are you talking to somebody in the meeting?
Awesome. Red.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, the only thing is, we had an emergency meeting, the DHS called on Saturday, and they talked about the daycare providers. Unfortunately, they were not able to give us any additional information. The one question they did answer is they are looking for volunteers. So I had our director of Adventure Time, Ashley Meyer, contact her team leaders and employees, and of the 60 she contacted, there were no volunteers. There were 7 or 8 associates who said they might be able to volunteer an hour or two, and I don't think that's what they're looking for. So during the Zoom meeting we had, I suggested that they provide a point person and we could send our questions, because we had at least 24 from our district alone. As far as who was going to run it, what would it look like? They did not even talk about, do we need to serve food and those things. So they are working on the questions that the superintendents across the state had sent out. But I really have nothing at this time other than the meals started today. And I only heard of one hiccup. And it was, I guess, a little crazy at maybe the buildings. Some people were getting out of their cars. I don't think people understood to stay in their vehicles, but that's probably understood because people don't know for sure what it looks like. But I can't tell you a number that we had, and but I really don't have an update on anything else at this time.
On the meals, how are the times arrived at? I noticed that it was a pretty short time window, 20 minutes, I believe, at the 3 buildings. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes. It looked like they might have had 30 minutes at the last one, and I'm not sure why. But Kathy set those up. I think she was just figuring on, it was just a start to do it, and if they needed to change, they would. And again, I haven't had a chance to touch base with her, doing a little scrambling today. But I will find out. I'm not sure how that was decided. I'm sure it was just a matter of, I think the intent is people literally are to stay in their cars, and they're going to hand how many bags are of children that are in the car, and they thought probably they could just get it done in a short period.
Okay, I guess I'd be curious to see the demand there, if they had people the whole time, and if there needs to be some expansion, longer than 20 minutes or so, if that's possible.
Gotcha.
Maybe for kids to not be getting any food that would otherwise eat it.
I will look into that.
I know I had a question, sorry, Ashley. I had a question for Mary Beth. When we were discussing paying people premium, pay proposal, etc., have we checked into if it will cause, I don't know if any of our staff uses state benefits, whether it be like food stamps, etc. But if we pay them time and a half, there's a chance we could knock them off of the benefits list. And I wanted to know if we checked into that.
That's a good question. So the only people that will be paid time and a half are employees that were deemed essential, and that would be by the supervisor or principal or director. So it's a very small number of folks that would be deemed essential, primarily custodians, some business office staff, HR, who else am I missing? Some food service, if they're not salaried.
Yeah.
A lot of folks are salaried,
Could be translators.
possibly. And we didn't feel like the number of hours that they would actually be on site would cause an issue. But we did talk with legal counsel about it. That's a good question.
I just don't want to accidentally push anyone off the cliff, the next
Sure.
cliff, and then end up hurting them long term.
Mhm.
Mary Beth, can you record that Sarah joined at about 6:40?
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or discussions about anything proposed in any of these three items? Since we've got the premium pay, any other questions?
We'll take each of these items separately for a vote.
Yep.
Okay.
So hearing no other questions,
I do,
Sarah?
Sorry, guys, I was trying to join a couple different ways, but that didn't work for me. So, can you tell me where we're at real quick?
Yeah, we're on item D, which is the COVID-19 update possible action. So we have had a clarification and some questions about the meals and how many have been served and whether the time that has been allotted is adequate. So Steve is going to get with us on that. The other question is to make sure that none of the premium pay people are on state or federal programming that would cause them to be kicked off the cliff if they make too much money. So those are both valid questions. We all agreed, and we are hoping that they will be checked into. So if you have any other questions or clarifications on any of these three items, now would be the time.
This is Stacey Anderson. I have a question. I definitely understand and emphasize with Durham School Services, and I'll go absolutely with whatever the board wants to do. I'm just wondering about, are there other vendors that we're not paying? Like we got that letter from crossing guards and things of that nature. Why? I just want to make sure that we're not, I guess, making an unequitable exception. Does that question make sense?
I think it does, yes.
Yeah.
I will answer that first, the best of my knowledge. First of all, there are a couple things, because I know it came up today after talking with Lauren, that in that resolution, one area that is not directly listed in there, and again, there could be more. We're trying to think through all of this, and that was a resolution created by Allers. One that would probably needs to be included, I think, is to include long-term subs that have already started. We've had a couple pregnancies in the district and people have started, and I think they need to be included because, again, Allers' intent was not to list everyone, but I just want to make it clear because somebody brought it new to me. If we do get back on the 13th, we need to ensure that those people are ready to go and ready to teach as well. To answer your question, when I received that, I received the same email that you did from the gentleman. Apparently that list is, and I replied to him that was going on the agenda tonight, so maybe ISEA's list was those who haven't done it yet. Having said that, when I ran it by Mary Beth, I think if I read his email correctly, the city has not agreed to pay for it. They are not, I'm not sure if they're guided under us or not, so that was something we thought we might have to go back and ask legal counsel about how that works, because we pay a portion. And again, to get back to Durham, the big thing is they will lose drivers. And in my 22 years as an administrator, I'm not sure if you can go anywhere and find a place that has an abundance of bus drivers. So I know they are working with the other 4 districts that I'm aware of, because I work through Allers, and they said that, yeah, those districts too are looking to do something on that line. And like Ankeny, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's like, I was grateful it wasn't us, but I also understand if they lose people, they won't come back in 3 weeks, and then our services will not be met.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the good question.
I was also, sorry, Ashley Anderson. I had further question about the resolution solutions in regards to closing the school for a longer time, and that being solely on fees. And I was kind of hoping I could hear from the rest of the board on their thoughts on that. Mostly, my thoughts. I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
My thoughts are just that I want to make sure that, as I told you earlier, as a board, that we can support you in whatever way you need necessary. And it just seems like that's a very large decision to put just on your shoulders, and it might be more understandable to have an emergency board meeting to vote on that. But maybe not. I just want to hear what other people had to say.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, actually.
I think that's a really fair question, Ashley.
And I want to make sure, it's not that I don't think that Steve can do it. It's more just, I don't want, like, so much of the pressure right now is just completely falling on your shoulders, and I want to make sure that we can support you in it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I think the only thing I would say is, again, we don't know. This is a total uncharted waters. I guess if you would allow myself then to contact the board president, and then maybe she helped make me that decision, you know what I'm saying, before we go into a special meeting, run it by the board president and let her also help with that decision initially, because, you know, who knows, we could run into something here. You know, it's awkward at this point because technically the governor never mandated that schools close, and yet we're all there. So it's kind of like, yeah, and I appreciate the protection because there's enough stress to go around. So if you'd be okay with that, I guess, because it does say in there too that we could call it, and I'm more than okay with that. But I think just let's also leave it that the board president and I will make that decision together, just in case if something were to come up that's a big time emergency, and I don't want to exclude that because we weren't able to hold a meeting. Does that make sense?
I understand that. Catherine, what do you think?
I think that's fine. I also do realize that the majority of us right now are working from home, and it would not be difficult to set up a meeting just like this with 24 hours notice. And so being cognizant of that, I just like all of us to have good information and be united on whatever approaches and supportive of each other and of the administration. And I think it behooves us then to really work together on this. And so I'm glad you brought it up, Ashley, because I kind of have some ambivalence about it myself.
I agree. I mean, just from past history, not that Steve couldn't do it, because traditionally calling out school is very much a role of the superintendent, but we are in uncharted territory right now. In the past, we have had to have meetings with 24 hours or less notice, and we've always been able to accomplish it, I would say, just to alleviate any concern.
And to be clear, you are correct. Technically, we don't need the 24-hour rule if it's an emergency meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Good.
So do we have to move something to edit that, or?
No, I think it says in there about, if I read in there, doesn't it? I haven't read it since this morning, but I think it says something about keep in touch with the board and potential meetings. I think it was number, one from memory here, 4 maybe? Does that sound right? 4 or 5, one of those two. Sorry, I don't have a copy in front of me. Put it right on top. That's the one.
This is Durham, isn't it?
No, Durham is the next two.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, I've got a copy. Was it 4?
Okay, so it says, be further resolved that the district superintendent is authorized to close any school facility without further action by the board of directors. So that part would need changed, and that's on, there's not page number. That's on page 2 of 3.
Yep, and the third one. So what if we were to add something like authorized to close a school facility with the input from the board president and or entire board.
Can we have allers put in the correct language, not and or? Because I think what Catherine is saying is she feels comfortable with the whole board, unless I misunderstood.
I think I am fine, yeah, with decisions that Steve and I could work together on it. I would err on the side of conservatism myself because I would like to include everyone. But if it's something that we just need to decide quickly and then notify everyone that we have done that, I think that's what we'll do.
That is totally fair.
I don't see that happening.
It does give us the and/or gives us a little bit of wiggle room, worst case scenario.
And if we leave it with the board president, if the board president doesn't agree, then go with the board.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Okay, is this the, can we go ahead then and have a motion to approve DI 1, whatever it is?
Motion to approve EI with the substitution of language as discussed.
Second, Smith.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, we'll go to the proposal for premium pay for essential staff. May I have a similar motion?
Motion to approve.
Down second.
Who made the motion, please?
I think it was Stacy.
Stacy?
I know Deanna said Stacy first, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
You got that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All in favor of approving D2 premium pay for essential staff? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and a motion for the Durham transport request.
Smith moved to approve Durham request.
Ashley,
Down
second.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Good job, unanimous. Okay. We don't have any board reports because we skipped this agenda down. Steve, do you have anything to report?
No, just that some of you might have seen, we sent a couple more emails out tonight, and those of you who do not have children in the district, I'll get those out to you right after the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on the bad side of that email, Steve.
Stay healthy.
Okay. May I have any discussion on any of the items of the consent agenda?
This is Smith. I'll move to open the consent agenda.
Okay.
Down second.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
I have, okay, I would like more information on, I want to make sure I get the right one. That's 4, B4, for the timeout room. Can we get a little bit more information on that?
I guess I can answer that. I know with the student needs over there, they do not have one of those rooms. So basically, they were trying to get it in before we come back to school to construct that in one of the rooms.
What do those look like on the inside? Are they just like a blank room, just like wall, floor? Do they have
Yeah,
like
they're
calming activities? Is it like a calm space for them, or is it more of a we need to separate teacher and student? Like what?
usually they're by like the regulation that's coming down is that they have to be at least 7 by 7. I think that one is 8 foot by 8 because it is just being built in the corner of a current classroom. And some rooms have pads in them, some do not. It's when a student gets out of hand and basically They asked to go in there to calm down.
The student has to go in there? Or
Yes.
Does the teacher?
The teacher probably would like to sometimes.
The teacher has to put a student in there.
I would assume so, but I'm not in there. But again, usually it's for extreme situations where a student is out of control. But I don't know how much, again, when they say put them in there, I don't know. I would almost think, again, for the most part, schools have hands-off rules. So I guess I can't address how the student gets in there. Never seen anyone.
I might be able to address a little bit of
Thank you.
that. First of all of the teachers, especially any special education teacher, has to go through Chapter 103, which is a law that was put into effect, and they have to get specific training on that. I guess my biggest question would be that has this already gone through the student's IEP and families, that everyone has signed off on the fact that this is happening for the student and that it's part of their intensive behavior plan? I would assume that, but that's not something that I
can't
see
answer.
anywhere in this document. Right.
I can't answer that because I don't know. I'm not involved in IEPs. I can sure find
So
out.
that's good. Right. So that for me is going to be an issue. I wouldn't say okay unless I know that that's been addressed in the student's IEPs and their family has been on board with that, and that everyone has been trained prior to the installation of this timeout room.
I would second that.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, and I'm grateful for your knowledge on that, Brianna.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it is something that really across the state we're trying to get rid of. I mean, we're trying to reduce it. Now we know that we do have certain student needs that every once in a while do deem that. It is a huge expense too to the district. That, and I guess my other question is, what else has been done in the student's behavior plan prior to going to this extreme? Because, and I also question because lots of districts have misused the use of a timeout room and then have had lawsuits and have had children being hurt, and we would not want, or teachers being hurt, we would not want that to happen also. So I guess I'd like a little bit more background information as far as the purpose for the timeout room. Obviously, we can't necessarily read the student's IEP, and that's confidential, but I think I would rather have some, firm, whether that's from Shauna or from the principal in the building, to know that that is for sure has been already signed on an IEP and family is in agreement and that all parties are aware.
And I don't disagree except for one statement possibly. As you know, being in education, families don't always agree with everything that goes on the IEP because it takes an IEP team to make that decision. So we have to be cautious. And then I can have Shauna let the board know, but again, we have to be very concerned here. We're talking about an individual child's education plan that I don't have a right to. So when you say you want more, I think your first questions are valid. Was the IEP followed? Is the staff trained? But beyond that, I doubt if there's much more that can be shared about a student's plan. I would caution the board.
The IEP team, but I guess that would be another hesitancy that I would have if a parent is saying no, and this might go to due process, then we would be putting in a lot of expense to a timeout room that might not ever get used.
So I would say at this point, it would probably be good to have a little bit more background on the need and how, because I completely agree with Brianna, when I was inside, it is very expensive. And typically it is the final alternative with a behavior disorder because of its extreme nature. And so the only times I ever saw it happen were because a student needed that level of intervention. So, but I completely understand and accept that the board, particularly given the controversial nature of those rooms across the state and across the nation, I would propose maybe that that somehow we get a little better assurance, but I also understand that they want to construct this room over break. Is that, I mean, like before?
That's correct.
So I'm not sure how to handle this at this point with the ambivalence of some people on the board. Any suggestions?
I understand that they want to build it quickly, but I'd rather make the right decision and not have it done by the end of break. Because,
This is Judy. I mean, I feel like we have the luxury of time right now, right?
yeah,
So can we get some more information?
Would you like to approve the consent agenda excluding that item?
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that.
I'm
I
comfortable with that.
went to, unless there are any other questions on any other items.
I did have, this is Smith, I did have one question I saw on the wall for security. It looked like there was some additional cameras, and on the order, it talked about problem areas and always be, and I'm assuming that refers to the middle school. Was that just problem areas as far as coverage, or is there additional issues going on there with
He's saying,
regard to the outside and always
for
the
security. I don't know.
I'm not sure, again,
I don't
that's
know the answer to that.
John's, and I'm not, unless I ask everything, which I don't know what that is. I could find out more. And that's the, is that the 5 or 6, Mark?
That's 5. I'm more curious as to why we're doing it now.
So your question is, why is more needed? What is the purpose?
Well, yeah, it lists that 2 each fisheye cameras to cover problem areas. There's always C&B, plus there's areas of well, I know a few weeks ago they also moved all of the middle school students inside before school because I don't really know why. So I'm a little bit curious as to why they were moved and why we're making these changes now.
And it could be new change in administration recognizes there's problem areas. I mean, I think it's fairly common actually to buy additional, I know I've had requests from other administrators and I told them I'd like to work it, as a deal. We don't want to just put 1 or 2 in at a time traditionally. So it's possibly that it's just as simple as a new administrator says there's problem areas. And again, I'm not sure where those areas are identified, but that could all, it could just be something like that. I can sure find out and be happy to.
Well, Steve, one thing, and I don't know if maybe Mark's aware of this change and maybe this was on part of this question or not, but before our middle schoolers were not allowed, I think except for 10 to 15 minutes before school, they absolutely insisted that they must stay outside under every and all circumstances. And then it changed course and it was stated they may not under any circumstances stand outside. So the kids had firm instructions to do one thing and then it switched dramatically to do one thing, to do another, if that makes sense.
I guess I'm not aware of that. I know I've had an email earlier this year from a parent, and I think the response that I saw from the principal at the time was that the child was coming early enough where there was no one there to supervise. Again, the staff is not always there sometimes when kids get dropped off, but I can't deny nor confirm what you're saying.
So what I'm hearing Steve say is that you can check into that and give us a little more general information. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. I still wouldn't hold up
No,
going forward with the construction. I would still in this approval.
And I still let the board know when I find out a response though.
Yep, thanks, appreciate it.
and so, may I have a motion to approve with the exception of, is it 4?
It is
Yeah, I'll
4.
move to approve with the exception of D4.
Ashley, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. So hopefully we'll have a little more information on that construction by the next board meeting.
Yes.
And So I'm going to skip down to item 8. Do we have any other matters that need discussion?
Just to keep the board in the loop, tomorrow morning, we'll be sending out the Metro Soups. Again, part of our conversation has been around direct instruction versus providing engaging activities and things that kids can do. E-learning across the country are doing, but there's still a lot of questions. The Fed's Secretary DeVos has sent out a thing saying do not let special needs or IEP needs get in the way of teaching kids, and yet that is not the directive we've been given from the Department of Ed. I know the AEAs have been working all weekend, including during summer, with the Department of Ed. So we're still kind of waiting for some guidance if what's coming with that, but very, very few districts on a pre-K-12 level are doing online learning. So most of us, though, have tried to work together and have a complete list of activities. I know Dr. Carlisle spent a lot of time pulling together data, working with our peers as well. We'll be sending something out to our families tomorrow morning.
Yeah, good.
Steve, can I also, just on that note, too, especially since you're getting together with area superintendents, my understanding from Heartland AEA is that it's any support that districts are needing for their staff. You know, even if it's just once a week, like check-in from, whether it be from Heartland or somebody with a background in mental health or anything, that needs to come directly from the superintendent. So we can't reach out and say, oh, what would you like? How can we be helpful?
Sure.
Instead, it has to come from a superintendent to say, you know, I think our staff would benefit from, you know, this, or, you know, our preschool teachers are really wanting to collaborate and who can help support that? Like, so that has to come from you as the leader of the district to reach out for if you're wanting any additional support for your staff during this time.
Okay, thank you. And John, by the way, is Sheldon has been a part of all of our discussions as well.
Anything else? Okay, we have a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Stacy Anderson.
Anyone?
Smith, second.
Okay, stay safe, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.